Thank you, Riley, for the introduction, and welcome to everyone on the line. Bienvenue à tous. Today, I'll discuss some of the trends that are reshaping the travel industry. We'll start with the current state of travel tech. What is travel tech? How much money has been invested in the space? By who and where? Then, I'll dig into how corporate in the sector are responding to some of the challenges posed by the rise of travel tech startups, and more particularly, how some of the very first travel tech companies created during the internet boom are investing and acquiring to stay ahead of the game. Then we'll move on to some of the categories that have recently gained momentum, namely luxury, activities, and smart luggage. Finally, we'll conclude this webinar with an overview of nascent trends that may profoundly change the travel industry as we know it. So let's start with a quick definition of travel tech. We define it as being tech-enabled companies focusing on the traveler experience, such as booking and price comparison websites, with the exclusion of car-hailing companies such as Uber and Lyft. So how much money has been invested in travel tech startups so far? Well, there's been $15 billion invested since 2013 in travel tech, and this across 1,300 deals. Based on full-year run rate, 2017 could be the fifth year in a row that the number of deals increases in the travel tech space. A couple of notable deals this year include a $447 million series raised by home-sharing giant Airbnb in March, and $1 billion invested by the Public Investment Fund of Saudi Arabia in space travel company Virgin Galactic in October. Virgin Galactic is a space travel company focused on tourism that is planning to launch commercial flights in 2018. It was funded by Richard Branson, founder of the Virgin Group, and is also backed by some Middle Eastern sovereign wealth funds. Now looking at quarterly financing, we see that Q2 and Q3 15 stand out with record-breaking funding amounts due to mega rounds raised by Airbnb and China-based Ly.com. Now looking at the number of deals, Q1 and Q2 17 have seen 91 deals each, at par with the record of Q2 16. Looking at deal share by stage, early stage deals still dominate with 60% share. However, the share of seed and angel has decreased over the time, which could signal some maturation of the sector. We've already discussed some large deals, but here is a closer look at the largest deals since 2013, and Airbnb completely dominates it. Interestingly, Virgin Galactic made its entrance in the top 5 with a mega round financed by the Public Investment Fund of Saudi Arabia. This deal is part of Saudi Arabia's plan to diversify its economy away from oil, and so the Public Investment Fund make a couple of billion-plus bets, including in Uber. Unsurprisingly, the companies that have raised the largest deals are also the most well-funded: Airbnb, Virgin Galactic, and Ly.com. These most well-funded startups are also quite diverse, both in terms of subsector and geography. Looking at the most active VC investors gets us to a similar conclusion, with half of them being based outside of the US. Germany-based Global Founders Capital is an investment fund set up by the Rocket Internet founders and has made 10 unique investments in travel tech. Interestingly, Spain-based Caixa Capital Risk is among the most active VC investors. It is the venture arm of one of Spain's largest financial institutions, La Caixa, and invests mainly in Spanish startups. Overall, 60% of the most active VC investments are based either in Europe or Asia. We've just seen that travel tech was an international space, so let's have a look at what are the most active geographies. Close to 70% of deals are happening outside of the US, with India capturing 10% of deals and China 8%. Not shown on the chart, but worth mentioning, China captures 25% of total funding. European countries, which are among the most visited countries, are also represented here with 6% of deals for France, the UK and Germany, and 4% for Spain. On this map, we see the countries with the most travel tech activities. We've highlighted the top 3 most well-funded startups that have raised over the past 2 years in each of these countries. Spain appears to be focused on hotel booking, with companies such as BuyHours.com, in which Caixa Capital Risk has invested. In Asia, China is dominated by home sharing and booking platforms, while India has some well-funded budget hotels aggregators. So what is driving travel tech in China and India? Chinese tourists are increasingly visiting other countries, leading to the rise of dedicated booking platforms such as LY.com and Yaoshufa.com. According to Research and Markets, by 2022, the number of Chinese traveling abroad will be more than double what it was in 2016. Concomitantly, a soaring vacation rental market favored the emergence of home-sharing platforms like Tujia and Xiaozu. In India, travel tech drivers are different, with a rising domestic travel market combined with a growing network of budget hotels. Although Airbnb can be considered as the global home-sharing category killer, with over 4 million listings worldwide, it has been struggling to grow its share of the Chinese market. Local competitors, although smaller on a global scale, have managed to get close to 1 million listings combined, mainly based in China. Despite being referred to as the Airbnb of China, Tujia's success may come from its different approach to home sharing. The company explained that it started by focusing on vacant properties based on its observation that Chinese travelers would rather rent an entire home than an extra room in a shared home. Despite its issues in China, Airbnb is perceived as a key challenge by travel incumbents, as we are going to discuss in this section. Travel incumbents facing disruption are stepping up their game by backing a record number of travel tech startups, from hotel chains trying to find answers to the challenges posed by Airbnb, to online travel agencies investing and acquiring to stay ahead of the game. In line with overall deal activity in the space discussed earlier, the number of corporate-backed deals soared from just 18 deals in 2013 to 67 deals in 2017 year to date. Most active investors include China-based Tencent with 7 deals. Amadeus Ventures comes second with 5 investments. It is the travel venture fund of Amadeus, the largest intermediary between travel agencies and providers such as hotels and airlines. Other active corporate investors include top hotel chains such as Accor Hotel, that we'll discuss a bit later in this presentation, as well as the online travel agencies. As I have witnessed myself, being the son of an old-fashioned travel agent, the online travel agencies have significantly grown. They have replaced a significant number of physical travel agencies and keep on growing through acquisitions. However, the rise of Airbnb, along with a new generation of travel tech startups, pose new challenges to these giants. To stay ahead of the game, they have made a total of 25 acquisitions and 10 startup investments in the travel tech space since 2013. Expedia and TripAdvisor have been the most active with 10 deals each, including high-profile transactions such as the $3.9 billion acquisition of vacation rental platform HomeAway by Expedia. As mentioned, Airbnb has become a key focus for the big online travel agencies as it turned into a giant in less than a decade. It is now valued at $29 billion, more than Expedia, TripAdvisor or Ctrip individual market caps. It has also grown from 2,500 listings in 2009 to over 4 million to date and is becoming more and more acquisitive. It recently competed with the likes of Expedia and Accor Hotel in a bid for startup luxury retreats and won the bid. So what are the big booking platforms focusing on? A key driver behind the big four online travel agencies' activity has been to build and consolidate market share. In this low-margin business, size matters a lot, and the broader the offering, the more likely are travelers to use your booking platform. Another focus has been to move beyond core geography to tap into new territories. Ctrip moving outside of China with UK-based flight comparison platform Skyscanner, or Expedia betting on Southeast Asia as it invested in Indonesian booking platform Traveloka. Last but not least, they have expanded their core offering through acquisitions and investments, moving into vacation rentals as a response to the rise of Airbnb, as well as hotel operations to deepen their involvement with hotel partners. Online travel agencies' M&A activity has been a key driver behind the soaring number of VC-backed travel tech startup exits. There has been a total of 70 IPOs and M&A transactions since 2013. This year is already setting a new record high with 20 exits during the first 9 months. The top exit since 2013 is Expedia-backed Despegar, which listed in September at a $1.75 billion valuation. Despegar is an Argentina-based booking platform that was backed by Accel Partners, Tiger Global Management, and Sequoia Capital, among others. Despite this high-profile IPO, the vast majority of exits are M&A transactions, with most of them being sub-$100 million transactions. Startups have been the acquirer in close to half of the M&A transactions over the past year, which partially explains why there has been so many smaller deals. Interestingly, hotel chain Wyndham has acquired London-based home swapping platform Love Home Swap for over $50 million back in July this year. Wyndham has recently been reported to be in talks with Airbnb over the sale of its European vacation rentals platform. As we'll discuss later, hotel chains have been particularly active in the vacation rental sector. Now that we've discussed recent corporate activity, let's have a look at what categories these incumbents may be looking at. We have recently laid out a market map of travel tech with close to 100 startups having raised over $10 billion combined. Booking and search having historically been the first segment of the travel industry to be disrupted back in the 90s, it is no surprise that these categories have the highest number of startups. Moving on to the center of the market map, home sharing and car sharing categories already have startups of significant size, with Airbnb and BlaBlaCar both being valued more than $1 billion. Smaller categories such as luxury, activities, touring and information, as well as smart luggage, appear to have recently emerged and may be areas of interest for investors and incumbents alike. Let's start with luxury. The luxury categories that we have identified as being emerging are luxury rentals and private jet booking. The latter category has attracted close to $250 million in funding since 2014. Part of these $250 million have been used to fund Vector, a UK-based private jet booking company. Vector claims it wants to make the use of private jet more accessible by making it easier to access information and book flights. In September this year, BP Ventures, the venture arm of oil major British Petroleum, has led a $20 million Series B round aimed at developing a B2B marketplace in addition to Vector's existing B2C offering. The next step after flying private to your destination will be to find an accommodation matching your flight experience. Luckily for you, luxury rental startups have been making headlines recently as they attract interest from both investors and acquirers. Although these luxury rental startups have a significantly smaller number of listings than Airbnb, they possess knowledge of the luxury segment. For that reason, Airbnb acquired Luxury Retreats earlier this year. The Canadian startup had received a total of $16 million in funding prior to this acquisition. There are a number of private luxury rental startups that have received funding over the past years, such as Paris-based Le Collectionniste, that has raised a $10 million Series B from Partech Ventures and Red River West, among others. Airbnb wasn't the first to make acquisitions in the luxury rental space, as French hotel chain Accor Hotel acquired UK-based One Fine Stay back in April 2016. One Fine Stay is a London-based luxury home-sharing platform that provides hotel-like services and had received over $80 million in total funding from Index Ventures, Hyatt Hotels, and Canaan Partners, among others. Accor Hotel CEO made it clear that he wanted to get into the home-sharing market to compete with Airbnb, although choosing to focus on the luxury segment. Accor Hotel also acquired France-based Square Break after first investing in it, and US-based Travel Keys, both operating luxury vacation rental platforms, and combined them under the One Fine Stay brand, creating a 10,000 plus listing luxury rentals platform. Completing their transportation and accommodation offering, travel companies are also looking at in-destination activities. The activities touring and information category mainly includes activities booking platforms, but also activities providers such as space travel company Virgin Galactic that we have already mentioned. So what makes activities touring and information a category to watch? First, this is a significant market, weighting $135 billion according to Focusrite, or 10% of total travel revenue. The sector has attracted high-profile investors such as Khosla Ventures and Sequoia Capital. And finally, incumbents have been very active with a flurry of deals and initiatives aimed at growing their share of this sizable market. Among the startups operating in this space, Berlin-based Get Your Guide is one of the most well-funded, with $170 million raised in total, of which $75 million this year. The company announced it had sold over 10 million tickets since its inception, half of which during 2017. One of its competitors, Singapore-based Klook, has raised $60 million this year from high-profile investors such as Goldman Sachs and Sequoia Capital China, among others. Online travel agencies have also been looking to expand in the activities market, mostly focusing on restaurant booking and reviews. TripAdvisor has been particularly active in this space, which represented over a third of its deals. It has made over 10 acquisitions and investments in restaurant booking and review platforms, starting with Paris-based La Fourchette, acquired in 2014 for close to $140 million. Interestingly, most of TripAdvisor's investments are located in Europe, while Priceline spent $2.6 billion to acquire US-based OpenTable in 2014. 2 years later, the Priceline Group wrote down the value of OpenTable by close to $1 billion on the back of lower than expected growth. This bad news did not prevent Airbnb from entering the restaurant booking game in September this year. In addition to restaurant booking, Airbnb recently expanded its service offering, launching Trips last year. Just before announcing the rollout of Trips, Airbnb purchased Trip for Real, a Spanish startup that connects travelers with locals. As discussed in our Airbnb strategy teardown that you can access following the link at the bottom of the slide, the Trips initiative allows users to book activities as well as to get recommendations on things to do or see around. It is a way for Airbnb to increase monetization of its users, as well as capturing a higher share of the travel market revenue. Food and drinks is the most popular experience according to Airbnb's data, reinforcing the case for the restaurant booking feature. Now that we've seen how to get to a certain destination, where to sleep and what to do, let's dive into how to pack. The centuries-old luggage industry appears to be set for a new revolution as it moves into the connected object space, with features such as USB ports or GPS tracking. A number of smart luggage startups have recently received funding, with the majority of them having raised through crowdfunding platforms. Among these companies, US-based Away is the most well-funded, with close to $30 million raised in total. Surprisingly, Away's luggage have less features than its competitors BlueSmart and Raden, which both integrate location tracker and weight sensors. Although all of them operate an online direct-to-consumer business model, Away recently started opening concept stores in the US, starting with New York and expanding in LA, San Francisco, and Austin. BlueSmart is also selling its product in selected locations, such as the MoMA Design Store in New York. Adding on to the possible features, some earlier stage smart luggage startups are also including robotics in their products. All of them have raised $500,000 or more on Indiegogo and offer either a rideable luggage or one that can automatically follow you. Although they haven't attracted high-profile investors yet, these startups are opening new horizons for luggage technology. Speaking of new horizons, let's now have a look at some of the longer-term trends that may reshape the travel industry, especially two of the most discussed horizontal technologies, artificial intelligence and blockchain. Although we are only starting to understand how artificial intelligence may change our lives, some startups have already started to use it in order to remove some of the pain points in the traveler experience. Among the companies that we have already highlighted in the previous post, Voya is one focusing on improving the business travel experience. Similarly to its competitors 30 Seconds to Fly, Voya focuses on small and medium businesses and created an artificial intelligence-powered assistant to help employees book business trips on their own without worrying about company policy or expenses, as they are automatically processed. Another application of artificial intelligence to travel is pricing forecasts. Both Flyer and Perfect Price are using artificial intelligence to help travel companies boost their revenue by improving pricing forecasts and adapting their prices to demand in real time. Flyer is a white label system that travel companies can use to help users lock in the price of a ticket for a given period of time for a certain fee. Another key application of artificial intelligence in travel is aimed at improving the overall traveler experience through better interaction. Chatbots, which can simulate human conversations through chats or voice, are being regarded by companies as a great marketing and retention tool. These bots can answer simple questions such as opening hours or facilities offered by a hotel, and can include call to action features to finalize a booking, for instance. Paris-based Just2Go has recently raised $1.1 million from hotel chain Accor Hotel and VC investor Partech Ventures to develop a platform on which hospitality companies can build their own chatbot. While artificial intelligence is set to disrupt how travelers interact with travel providers, some travel incumbents bet that the blockchain technology will disrupt the travel distribution market. The CEO of TUI, a German tour operator, explains why his company is implementing blockchain. He believes that the online travel agencies that sit between the travelers and the hotels or airlines may be the first to be impacted by the adoption of the blockchain technology in the travel sector. A growing number of travel corporates are looking at blockchain, such as Australian online travel agencies Webjet or previously mentioned travel distribution company Amadeus. There is a very limited number of blockchain startups focusing on the travel, and WindingTree appears to be the most talked about, as it has already partnered with some high-profile airlines such as German-based Lufthansa. WindingTree essentially promotes a decentralized distribution platform for travel providers such as hotels and airlines in order to make it cheaper, faster, and safer to book hotel rooms or flights. Other applications of blockchain that could be used by travel players include blockchain-based loyalty program, such as the one developed by California-based Loyal, or ID verification for airlines and hotels as developed by ShoeCard. According to ShoeCard, travelers would be provided with a single token that could be used to verify their identity by any airline or hotel connected to its system. In addition to artificial intelligence and blockchain, some travel incumbents are trying to reinvent their business model to answer the challenges posed by the new generation of travel companies. Some hotel chains are shifting their business model towards what could be called hotel as a platform and would translate into hotel open to everyone, anytime. Sébastien Bazin, CEO of Accor Hotel, is one of the proponents of the hotel as a platform concept. He said he wanted to broaden its customer base beyond the people coming to sleep in his hotels, not only by increasing its offering through the acquisition of luxury rental startups, as we've already discussed, but also by opening its hotels to locals. As Accor Hotel is moving forward with its business model reinvention, three pillars start to appear. The first one is a booking platform open to independent hoteliers. Accor Hotel initially planned to have 10,000 hotels in its booking platform, with roughly 75% being independent hotels. However, it has recently announced it would discontinue this initiative due to the higher than expected marketing costs required. The second pillar is concierge and local services. In addition to the common food and beverage services offered by hotels, Accor Hotel is testing the possibility to be the link between local shops and customers through its app Accor Local. The hotel chain is also offering hotel-like concierge services to people who are not staying with Accor Hotel through its concierge app, John Paul. Finally, Accor Hotel partnered with Nextdoor, a French co-working space provider. Accor Hotel will provide hospitality and concierge services and adding the co-working space to its distribution platform. It still remains to be seen if this strategy will bear its fruits, but it certainly is an additional sign that Accor Hotel, and more generally travel incumbents, are willing to evolve in order to survive. Thank you. That concludes our presentation for today. I'll take a few questions right now and continue to answer questions over Twitter and email. Thank you. So we've got a few questions coming in. I'll pick up just a few ones to start with, and of course, as I said, we'll continue to answer them over Twitter or email. The first one is, how are hotels integrating technology to compete with the likes of Airbnb? Well, first, I'd say that hotels have caught up in terms of booking experience with the launch of dedicated booking apps that make it much easier to book a room as you would do on Airbnb. Secondly, and even before thinking of changing their business model, as we've just discussed, hotels are launching initiatives to become smart hotels or connected hotels. As Internet of Things is penetrating more and more households, travelers demand more and more to have the same type of comfort in their hotel room. And for instance, Hilton's CEO that talked recently in September in a conference described Hilton's vision of the connected room, where you can control elements in your room using your smartphone and your smartphone only, so you wouldn't have to touch any sort of appliances or whatsoever. Marriott has launched a similar initiative as well as other hotel chains. And in my opinion, this will definitely take time and require significant investments from hotel chains, while at the same time Airbnb can count on its hosts to already have smart home features in place. Another question we have is Airbnb still competitive in China? Well, as we've discussed in the Airbnb strategy teardown, the company is still very much betting on China. They've recently replaced their CEO as the local CEO resigned soon after joining, and they replaced him with one of the co-founders, which shows how much emphasis Airbnb wants to put on China. They're also not that small, actually. They've already had 120,000 listings in China, and they've been rumored to be potentially looking at acquiring Yaoshufa.com, which is the second largest Chinese player with 200,000 listings. Finally, last question. It seems like the big tech companies have retreated from travel category, Google, etc. Why is that? It seems like travel is the biggest vertical they have left relatively untouched. Well, I'd say that Google already has Google Flights, where you can search for flights and book them. But in my opinion, one of the key reasons why big tech companies, and more particularly Google, aren't pushing too much into travel is because of the amount of money they get from selling advertising. The likes of Expedia and Priceline Group spend several billions each year on sales and marketing, and a big part of these billions of dollars are online marketing, hence benefiting the likes of Google and Facebook. So I really believe that the likes of Google and Facebook are waiting the time when they might make their push into travel, which is basically going to be the moment they see that they would get more money into by selling directly travel products versus getting advertising money from the online travel giants. Well, thanks again for listening. Of course, if you have any other additional questions, you can always reach out on Twitter and email, and I'll be happy to answer. Thanks again.